But you know, as long as I've known you, you've really always been alone.
That's true.
So how important is love? How important are relationships if you're always alone?
Yeah. Yeah, my old teacher said, the older you become, the lonelier you get, and the deeper love you need.
You know, I think he probably made about 3 to 4 main points in this video that we could very easily establish a full-blown conversation or discussion on. But I'm going to capitalize on the last statement he made. The older you get, the deeper love you need. I think this is something that I've always, for a very long time, I would say, had a deep sense about, because I observe the world around me. I see patterns among the elderly people I've been fortunate to have a discussion with or to observe from an onlooker's perspective to the degree that I can. And there seems to be an underlying dynamic of loneliness and uncertainty and lack of love, and life seems to just not turn out the way you expect it to. Because I think one of the reasons why this statement is very relevant and is very practical, I would say, is that when you go about your business in the world, you see a lot of evil, you see a lot of disheartening situations, you come across malevolent situations, you come across people who will go out of their way to harm you, people who will go out of their way to do good to you, difficult situations that you have to contend with on a daily basis, like one after another, on to the next. It doesn't ever stop, especially if you're one of those people who actively engage with the world on a daily basis and forthrightly confront it in a way that you want to see the best of yourself and the best from the world. So I think the culmination of all of these experiences, there is a compounding effect of depth and lack of security sometimes you get due to the unpredictability of some of the situations, and it leads to a sort of vacuum that builds inside of you, and then the accumulation of this over time makes it so that the antidote to that level of emptiness is love. And then because of the amount of time that has been spent accumulating this particular feeling, you need a lot of love to contrast it. I think this is one of the reasons why people have been encouraged to look for a lifelong partner, if possible. I do not believe that everyone is cut out for such a degree of commitment, but then if you are someone who is in a position to do so, then I don't see why not. But then at the end of the day, this is not an advice. One of the things I've learned so far in my life, I'm quite a young man, you know, but I've learned something quite important in my life, which is you can't tell people what to do. You can only suggest something to them, and then they do with your suggestion what they will. And so, based on that rationalization, I'm not necessarily trying to enforce a point of view. I'm just looking at it from the perspective of a lot of time spent in contention with the world can create a certain degree of vacuum in you, or a certain degree of loneliness in you. So much so that the only antidote to such degree of loneliness is an equal but opposite amount of love, a very deep amount of love, because the world really does you in. The world really sees what you're about. The world is difficult. Life itself is a problem. The solution to that problem is love. You could find that love in a spouse. You could find that love in parents, in siblings, deep friendships. I don't think there's one or two ways that you can find it. But then I would say that you can monitor and draft out a pattern of relationships that other people have had based on these different categories, and you can consider which one of those categories seems to last the longest, and then you most likely empirically it will probably be your best bet. But then it's left to you to do what you will with this particular information, just like I've said. But it's immediately I saw this video and I had the last statement. That was it seemed like he reached out his hand, and I was willing to take it because it's a very striking statement. It's very real and realistic and true, because the world throws so much at you, and the only way to contrast it is if you get lucky, if you're lucky enough to get an equal and sizable amount of love, enough to contrast that size of build-up impediment. So